Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining another Foreman community demo. I'm Nafar. I'm an active developer within the Foreman project, and I'll be hosting the demo today. So let's get started. For any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us at the Foreman group chat on Metrics, or during the demo, you can use the Google chat here. Okay, this is our agenda for today's demo. So as we mentioned, our Mr. team is going first. We have a few docs updates. We have a Foreman community developer-focused demo today. Let's get started. Okay, so first up is Samir with Python content updates with pulpcore 3.105. Samir, whenever you're ready.
Awesome. All right, let me get the screen sharing started. All right, so hopefully you all can see my screen. So one update we have is we have upgraded pulpcore for Katello 4.21 to run on pulpcore versions 3.105 and all the associated plugin versions, which will include like file upgrades. One thing I want to focus on particularly is the pulp Python upgrade. So we are going from 319 to 327. Because it's a jump in Python versions, there are some things that are changing about our Python support in Katello as part of it. The thing that's changing is it's more on the backend side of things. So usually when you create a repository, when you go to Pulp, you'll find associated records in Pulp for the repository. So one of those is publications. And another one is distributions. So the way Python repositories that Katello manages used to be was we used to publish the repo, as in create a publication. And then when we distributed the repository at a path, for example, so that path would come from the publication. So let me actually show you some of the repositories that we have. So for example, I have this repository list in Pulp. This corresponds to my Katello repositories as well. So here I have two repositories. If I were to look at Pulp, Python, all right. So right now I am on the upgraded instance where we are using the upgraded pulpcore. So now you'll see we don't have any publications, but we will still continue to have distributions. So let me look those up. Okay, so the change here is, so when I look at all the distributions that Pulp is creating, you'll see it's at the PyPy endpoint at this particular URL. And the publication is now nulled out. So we no longer use publications with the upgraded Pulp. That is one of the larger changes. What this also means is for existing repositories that you have on your box, when you upgrade Katello, we have a new task, which is, we have a new upgrade task, which basically runs on your instance. It upgrades all of your Pulp Python repositories to be distributed without publication. So it will delete all your Python publications and move your distributions to be published using repository versions. And for your smart proxies, if they are on if they are basically on upgraded pulpcore, they will follow the same flow. So there will be no publications. But if you have older proxies, which we do support N-1 and N-2 proxies, then you'll continue to use publications till you upgrade your capsule to the latest version. And this is the task that you'll see running when you upgrade, just to clean up the Python publications. Okay, I think that's about it for me. And I can stop everything.
Great, thanks a lot, Samir. I don't see any questions. If you do have, feel free to ask them during the demo. Okay, so moving on to the next topic, generic UI for model streams by Pavan.
Yeah, thank you. I'll share my screen. Yep. Hello everyone, I'm Pavan. Today I'll be giving a demo on the migration of module streams to generic UI. So here we have migrated module streams from Patternfly 3 to Patternfly 5 and integrated into the generic content UI framework. And here, like if we go to content and then other content types, so here it would display us with a drop down wherein we can select the other content types to view a particular content type. And, oh, sorry, it's taking a bit of time. Yeah, so here we have a new option called module streams. So this would display a PFI table of all the module streams that we have. And on clicking of any of those module streams, it will navigate us to the details page. So this would display the information related to that specific module stream. So yeah, yeah. So here we have details, repositories, and profiles and artifacts. So profiles and artifacts are specific to module streams. And the same information is also displayed in the module streams nav item. So it would display the same table, the module streams table, which we saw earlier, and as well as the details page. And also, like since module streams is used in many places in our code base, so even everywhere it is used, routes have been updated. For example, if we try to compare any two versions of the content view and try to check the module streams while we are comparing, so it would display the updated PFI table displaying all the module streams we have in that particular content view. So for example, I have a content view and let me compare any of the two versions. And over here, if I go on to module streams, it would again display the PFI table with the updated module streams component. So yeah, this is what I had for the demo today. So yeah, thank you.
Great, thanks a lot, Pavan. Yeah, let's move on to the next topic. Yeah, an update from docs. Aneta, I'll let you jump in when you're ready.
Yes, thank you. So I'm here, my name is Aneta, and I'm here today on behalf of the documentation team to tell you about some of our recent major changes to documentation. The first of those is that remote execution documentation gets a new refreshed look. Before, it was a very large chapter with over 30 sections, so that was a bit difficult to navigate. What we did now as part of a content quality review process is that we split that one huge chapter into phases based on, let's say, user lifecycle or the feature lifecycle. So first you have information about with an overview of what remote execution actually is. Then the getting started section will take you through the process of setting up and running your first job. Then you'll get more details about how to configure the whole process. Then you'll get some more specific use cases. Then you will find all the information about customizing your remote jobs in one place. And then there's referential information with options and so on. So Hopefully this will be less overwhelming, especially if you're a new user trying to find out what the heck remote execution is. But also seasoned users should also benefit from that whole update. And now I'll try to switch my tab to the other update that I want to present today. And that is, yes, perfect. We also updated documentation for Puppet configuration management to support the transition from Puppet to OpenVox. Now, as many of you, I'm sure, know, OpenVox is a community fork of Puppet that Foreman now integrates with. And as part of that change, we also updated documentation. Now, the technology is still called Puppet, so don't be confused by the name of the guide. So the name stays the same, configuring host by using Puppet, but as you can see in the table of contents, the key point is that Foreman integrates with OpenVox server and OpenVox agent. So, but don't take my word for it. Take a look at the guide, read through it, read through the architecture of the whole setup, and I'm sure you'll find a lot of useful information there. That's it for me today.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot, Aneta. Okay, let's move on. We have Jeremy now presenting the MultiCV for change content source.
Ian, did you want to go before me?
Oh, sorry.
If possible, yeah.
Okay. So let's change it. I'm sorry. Yeah, Ian, you have a developer-focused demo. Containerized Katello development with Foreman CTL.
Thanks. Let me just share my screen. So yeah, I'll be giving a bit of an overview today about how to do some development on a containerized machine. Let me just get the right window here shared. Okay. Okay, so what you're seeing right now is a gist that I have that just talks a bit about how to create a containerized environment, development environment specifically in Foreman CTL. These environments right now are quite ready to develop on, but there are just some steps that you have to work with first. So after you set up Foreman CTL, it's really nice because it includes a setup environment command. So you clone Foreman CTL, you run setup environment, and you source it. At the moment, Foreman CTL for developing locally kind of assumes that you've used Forklift before. So I would recommend following the Forklift setup guide first, which takes you through installing Vagrant. This guide that I have here is some of these steps recently we had to do a workaround around pulp being broken. But what I'll highlight is the main things that you really need to do here today. And these are even going to change quite soon as we get new RPMs built on top of new pulp, because this guide was written when we were in the midst of a pulp upgrade. But with Foreman CTL, if you run this forge command is mostly for development, you can run forge VM start. And by default, it will start a VM called Quadlet and a VM called Client. This Quadlet VM at the moment, since this is in development, is kind of hard-coded to be your Foreman CTL VM. And you can change that by passing in a VMs flag. For example, you can do like forge VM start and then -- VMs equals whatever. And if you define more boxes in your Vagrant file. But really the main thing I wanted to mention is that at the moment you can run this deploy dev command. And the most important thing here that you include, and by default deploy dev does include Katello, but there are some certain plugins I would recommend people include just in case you need to change things. You can include plugins like Foreman Tasks, Foreman execution, Foreman Ansible, Foreman RH Cloud, even if you're developing on that. These features that you add ensure that you actually have a smart proxy available and you have Hammer available too. And then very lastly, there's this extra vars flag. Since we're in the middle of a pulp upgrade, we've pushed a new pulp container image up to Quay. So you just have to make sure you use the nightly tag. If you use the default tag, it will pull in pulpcore 3.85. And that currently has a bug which affects the containerized environments where the workers restart. So I would just recommend using nightly. Very soon, you shouldn't even have to do this. So you would just have to use this command. And if you're not interested in using these in development, you don't even necessarily have to include them. However, it's just nice if you're doing development and maybe there's the latest development gem of Foreman execution has maybe some kind of new dependency in it. You could easily go into the Git repo, go back to an older version, etc. So my recommendation, use deploy dev. At a minimum, I would probably recommend to include Foreman execution as an enabled plugin. Add your Foreman proxy feature, add your Hammer feature, and then you'll have more or less what you normally expect out of the Katello develop box, which is what you'd create with Forklift today. And there shouldn't be too many gotchas at the moment. Just a couple of things to mention. Some of these might have even been fixed since I mentioned it, but the Foreman URL setting today uses an HTTP prefix, and that breaks host registration. So you just want to update that to use HTTPS. There was a bug around Rex jobs not completing. And last I checked, there were some Foreman SSL settings that you can add to fix that into your Foreman config. And import-export currently is being worked on because the pulp allowed import and export fields aren't being set by foremanctl, but there is a PR right now to fix that as well. Yes, Jeremy mentioned that he thinks the remote execution part is fixed now. Lovely. So anyway, at some point, I'm thinking of doing a community post, just kind of teaching people how to do this. But I wanted to wait until the pulp stuff was a bit more worked out, so you didn't have to worry about that. But just know, at the moment, if you try this, just include this nightly pulp container tag, and you should be good to go. Are there any questions? All right, thank you.
Okay, I guess I have one question. Ian, can you please share the link you just showed with the steps?
Yep.
Or would want to see it later? Yeah, can post it on the community forum. Okay, great. Thanks. And we need to go back. Yeah, to Jeremy. Again, Jeremy with MultiCV for change content source.
Back to Jeremy. Okay. Let me share my screen here. And I'm here today to talk to you about some improvements that are finally arriving for the change content source page in regards to MultiCV, multiple content view environments. But first, I want to give you just a little bit of a background because this change content source process it's a little bit involved. So I feel it's good to get a little refresher. So some background. When you register a host to Foreman or Katello, it's registered to a smart proxy. We also call that a content source. And that can be either your built-in smart proxy on the Foreman server itself, or it can be an external smart proxy. Here on this screen, you'll see I have two smart proxies. One is, I think 174 is my built-in one, and 245 is my external one. And if you need to change a host content source after registration, you can do that, but it's a two-step process. There's a server-side and a client-side actions that need to happen. And it's a little bit involved, so we have a dedicated page in the UI to help you do that. And that is where the improvements are today. So you may be wondering, what does all this have to do with MultiCV? So to tell you that, I need to give you a little bit more background. So one of the advantages of an external smart proxy is that you don't have to host all of your content on it. You can host a subset of that content of what's on your main Foreman server. And the way we accomplish this is by associating lifecycle environments with the smart proxy. So if I go to edit my smart proxy here, I see I have a lifecycle environments tab, and I see I have library, stage, and dev lifecycle environments, but only the dev lifecycle environment is synced or associated with this 245 smart proxy. So when you go to change content source, what happens if the host's assigned content view and lifecycle environment are not part of the synced content, or not part of the content associated with that smart proxy? Previously, you would just get an error when you try to do a DNF install or update action. I don't remember what it was, but it would just fail in a kind of not graceful way. But a while back, we actually added a rule that said everything, I call it coherence. Everything must be coherent. Your lifecycle environment synced by the smart proxy must be, well, the one assigned to the host must be the same as the one synced to the smart proxy. So that's our rule. So that's why on our change content source page, we made you select a new lifecycle environment and content view for the host as part of that process. So the selection that you made will replace the existing one. And that way we ensure that that rule is still followed even when you change to the new smart proxy for your content source. So that's what's improving today. So that finally brings me to the change today regarding MultiCV, because previously it was just one lifecycle environment and content view that you could select here. But now we have our beautiful new widget for selecting multiple content view environments. So if I select my content source here, you can see we're still enforcing that rule. See, I can only select the dev lifecycle environment here. I cannot select library. I cannot select stage. I can select dev, CV1, and now I have one content view environment. I can even add another one. So now we can add a second one, but I can still only select dev because that's the only lifecycle environment synced by my smart proxy that I chose. And then if I try to add a third one, I think I have no more left here, so it doesn't even let me. So we have to remove that one. I can also reorder them just like I can everywhere else in the UI. And then the rest of the process is the same as it's always been. Once I choose my new content view environments, those are going to replace those on that host or on the multiple hosts that I'm updating. And then I click either one of these buttons. When I click either one of these buttons, that's when the server side step happens. And then depending on which button I clicked, it either runs a remote execution job to do the client side step or spits out this script that I have to run on my hosts manually. So that is the change. I know it's a little bit dense, but if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thanks a lot, Jeremy. I don't see any questions. Yeah, this was clear at all. Okay, let's move on with another docs update from Lena. Lena, whenever you're ready.
Hi, I write documentation for Foreman. Just let me share my screen to show you what my update is. I've been working on quality review of the managing content guide recently. And this is the old version. with the chapter importing content, which, as you can see, is very long. It has almost 40 sections, and the chapter mixes together various user stories or use cases, and it was very difficult to navigate. And in the new version, I have split the chapter importing content into several short chapters with a clear user story or scope. And it's starting with the chapter adding content to Foreman, which is focused on importing content credentials, creating products, and creating repositories. And we also have this wonderful reference of repository definitions for client operating systems, which is very convenient. Then it continues with content synchronization, synchronizing content to Foreman, on-demand, and schedule synchronization. Then the next one is optimizing content synchronization and storage, which includes download policies, mirroring policies, and various advanced settings for repositories. And the last one, which was originally in the importing content chapter, is recurring corrupted content, which is to troubleshoot if any content is corrupted from the upstream URL sync or in content view publishing. This new table of contents is available in the supported releases and later, and the improvements on the managing content guide are ongoing, so you will see more of them in the future. And that's all from me today. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Lena. Great. And I think we are at the last demo, so we saved the best for last. Arvind with intro to foremanctl features.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Arvind. I'll be walking you through a new command line introduction that we have introduced in foremanctl lately. So let me quickly share my screen. Okay, so now that we are moving from RPM-based installation via Foreman installer to foremanctl as container-based installation, there was no good way to list all available features in Foreman installer. We could look at our answers files and check what plugins there that are enabled there, but not actual features. So in foremanctl now, if you first of all, this is a box set up already with foremanctl installed. So if you check help, there are commands to check, run pre-flight checks, deploy, and features, migrates, and pull images. I'm talking about features. So when you do foremanctl features, you'll get a nice CLI output of features that are available or enabled, or that are available, or some of them are enabled. So the state will show like which feature is currently enabled in foremanctl and which is available right now. So also look at the help for features. There's also a subcommand which will help you to list only enabled features, which is kind of good. So it will help you to list all the enabled features right now. And if you wonder where this all features are coming from, so they are basically coming from the features metadata that we have defined for foremanctl. So this is the only source of truth for all the features that are going to be there in foremanctl deployment. So yeah, and on top of that, there is one more thing. We have also introduced one check. So when you deploy with any invalid feature, yes, you will get a nice error. This feature is not available in our metadata and you can't enable this as it's not a valid feature. You can only enable the features that are there in our metadata, and those are only going to be enabled by CLI. None of them can be, none of the invalid features can be deployed. So you'll get a nice error that there is one unknown feature requested that is invalid and you can't enable that. So yeah, that's what I had for now.
Thanks, Arvind. I actually have a question for you. Can you give a little background on the machine you were using? Like, what do I need to set up in order to use the command line for foremanctl features?
Yes, like this is a broker VM, like it's a real machine where I have followed. I can see the this. Just a second.
So I need broker and anything else?
No, it's fine. Like you can do it on any enterprise Linux VM like CentOS or Fedora. Locally, you can also do it on Fedora. There is a documentation for containerized deployment, and you can go to it to set up that. You'll just need to enable the repository for Foreman and Katello, and then for latest changes, you can enable the copper because we don't regularly do the packaging work for foremanctl right now. And once that's done, you just need to install foremanctl and deploy with the available options that we provide.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, that's what I wanted to make sure, that I don't need broker to run this.
Yeah, it's totally fine. You can use any.
Okay, thanks, yeah. That's clear. Thanks, Arvind. Yeah, and I don't see any questions. Yeah, that was all for today. So the next demo is on June 4th. Yeah, if there are no more questions, I would like to thank everyone for joining. And of course, for our great team, thank you for sharing your work with us today. Okay, see you all next time. Thank you.